just only, maybe Miranda percent. Yeah, Miranda's on too, but
Okay, Brian Fallon. Andrew DeLawyer. Pat Wojcik.
Here.
Tom Bammel. Karen Pulio.
Here.
Dan Bork. Okay. We don't have a quorum.
well, you didn't call me first of all, so I
Oh, I apologize.
no, that's fine. I'm just saying, at least how far are we off, Jenny?
I believe. Yep.
I see four.
Sorry, what, is there a quorum here?
I see four.
Karen and Pat. Or the quorum.
You got Steve, Brian, Pat, and Karen.
Yep. Okay. Oh, Brian is here. Okay, good. That was not clear. Thank you, Brian. I did not hear you say anything, so I didn't see you wave. Thank you. Okay, that was the other person. Got it. We're all set. Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to the next agenda item. It's public comment. Are there any members of the public who would like to address the MPO today?
Yes, please.
Sure, go ahead.
The reason I'm attending this meeting is because when I attended the opening of the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail in Concord, I was approached by Mass Bike Alexis Hosea, and she asked me why was I not on the NMCOG, on the NMMPO, and I said, well, Billerica would not appoint me, but she said, no, I mean as a regional member, because they, Mass Bike apparently was looking for a regional input towards bike path infrastructure. So I did go back and forth a little bit with Paul, but Paul is unfortunately no longer here. And also, not so much Jennifer, but in any case, there is apparently an MOU, which with a vote of this committee can add a member. So it's a matter of discussion. I can stay out of it. I just wanted to bring it up during the public comment. This is what I was advised. And if there is interest in having bike path input in a regional capacity, I was asked to do this, so I would like to have a vote as well. I'm not just looking for something to do. I'm a very busy woman, but so I would like to be a voting member, not just public input. If there are any questions, I can address those.
So first of all, Ms. Henderson, could you just identify yourself for the record so we have it for the minutes?
Yes, I'm very sorry. My name is Marlies Henderson. I live in Billerica, North Billerica, and I was I moved here in 1997 from the Netherlands, and so I am often confronted with the lack of bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure. First, I thought I had to get used to it, and I decided, well, when in Rome, do as the Romans do, and when in the United States, do as the people in the United States do. But after 15 years, I changed my mind on that and started to ride my bike. And I like to ride it as a commuter. So wherever I go, doing the groceries, not so much for pastime driving with a bicycle in your car to a place where you can ride your bike. I mean, to get out the door on your bike, do your groceries, go to the town hall, do whatever you have to do, and use your bicycle. And the connectivity is severely lacking. I know there's a lot of talk about Yankee Doodle, and that is one bike path. And I'm looking for total connectivity everywhere, particularly the arterial roads. But if there's no interest in that, then I will not, I'm not here to bother anyone. I just want to be helpful. If it's perceived as helpful, as Mass Bike thought it would be, then I would like to have a vote on this board or council. And if it is not, I will not be upset if you don't think there is any room for me.
So first of all, Ms. Henderson, there's a lot of opportunities to contribute, whether you're a voting member or not. The issue of MOU, actually, we'd have to sit down, MassDOT as the chair, with staff of NEMCOG to actually talk through this. So there's not going to be anything. Well, we'll have to start this discussion after the meeting to see. I haven't looked at the MOU recently for Northern Middlesex, so we'd have to talk about that stuff. But obviously, we appreciate your interest in trying to help. So we'll look at that after this meeting and we'll get back to it. But in terms of other ways to get involved, obviously there's stuff that happens in our office and planning all the time about promoting the bike and ped plans. The last ones were done a few years ago. That came out of our office. I think we're getting ready to, we're always kind of fine tuning them and stuff like that. So we could also kind of reach out from the planning office to talk to you about some of the stuff that we do and connect you with some of the folks as well. So I will make sure to follow up and have myself and our staff kind of reach out to you. So if you could, I don't know how best to do that. I don't know if you want to put in the chat or get it to Jenny and she can share it with us. And then we will take up the MOU discussion, which would be probably not just about you, but more structurally where that MOU is in participation.
Yeah, that sounds very helpful. Jenny already has my information. I don't think there's any issue that unless all the board members would like it, that's fine. I can put it in the chat. But
No,
Jenny has it.
We'll just get it from Jenny. That works perfectly.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Are there any other members of the public who'd like to address the MPO today? All right, let's move on to agenda item 3, the approval of meeting minutes, which were for January 24th. Can I get a motion, a second, to approve them?
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, any changes or comments on the minutes? All right, Jenny, are you reading the roll or?
Kelly Linema, the deputy director, is going to read the roll.
All right, go Kelly.
All right, so Steve Wolfle,
Yes.
Brian Fallon,
Yes.
Pat Roches,
Yes.
Karen Pulio,
Yes.
roll call.
All right, now, someone say anything? Anyone have an issue?
No, I said that was it.
All right. Agenda item 4 is action item. It's tip amendment number 1 to the federal fiscal year 2024 to 2028 tip. I believe Blake is going to take this, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
All right, go ahead.
Hello, everyone. My name is Blake Acton. I'm the transit planner at the NPO/NIMCOG. So this is the amendment to the Transportation Improvement Program, or TIP, for federal fiscal year 24 through 28. This amendment was presented to the board in the previous meeting, and we opened it up for public comment through the February 2nd through the 23rd for the 21-day comment period. We accepted public comments to a dedicated email address that we set up for public comments at publiccomments@nimcog.org. And we also held a virtual public meeting on February 14th at 5:30 p.m. on Zoom. Myself and Paul Christner, our departing transportation manager, we hosted the Zoom meeting. We received no comments from the public at the meeting. No one from the public attended. We received one comment from LRTA on the TIP amendment. And let's go to the next slide, please. Yes, so this is a little easier to understand what the public comment from the LRTA is. So the LRTA comments are in red. The LRTA requests that we change one of the TIP projects listed on red there to increase the amount of funds for the LRTA project 011635. And the reasoning for this is to purchase equipment for the the ongoing, automatic vehicle location and automatic passenger counter project, which is, currently being installed. And also to paint the handrails at the, parking garage, at Gallagher Terminal. And also to purchase some computer equipment and conduct some, repairs to the garage. And these, additional funds will come from, state sources. And so, we then ask that the, board endorse the amendment with the comments received from the LRTA. Thank
So,
you.
thanks, Blake. So Pat, you made the motion and Karen, you seconded it. You guys both fine with the changes as suggested or requested by LRTA?
I am, but I don't think we made a motion on this. We made a motion on the minutes.
Did we? Did you? I didn't follow my usual process, Pat. What are you talking about? Usually do the minutes. See, I'm off today. All right, so can I get a motion a second to endorse amendment number 1 with these changes as requested by LRTA?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All right, well, we knew Karen was gonna do after I screwed that up. Anyways, so any questions on amendment number 1? Any other comments? All right, Kelly, you wanna read the roll, please?
Sure. Steve Wolfle,
Yes.
Brian Fallon,
Yes.
Pat Wojcik,
Yes.
Karen Pulio,
Yes.
Oliver.
All right, we'll move on to agenda item 5, which is another action item. It's about tip amendment number 2. Blake, take it away.
Sure, so the public comment period and, the virtual public meeting are the same as the tip amendment number 1. We collected public comments through the same dates and same times and same meetings. The NPO received no comments from the public during the public comment period or at the virtual public meeting on amendment number 2. And so we then asked that the NPO endorse amendment 2.
All right, can I get a motion and a second to endorse amendment number 2?
I'll make a motion to endorse.
Second.
All right, any questions on this? All right, Kelly, can you please read the roll?
Sure. Steve Wolfle,
Yes.
Brian Fallon,
Yes.
Pat Wojcik,
Yes.
Karen Pulio,
Yes.
Oliver.
All right, we'll move on to agenda item 6. This is performance measures. Chris, I see you there. Are you doing this?
That is me, Steve.
All right, take it away, Chris.
Okay. Thanks for sharing screen, Northern Middlesex. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Chris Clem, member of MassDOT's Office of Transportation Planning in the NMMPO activities team. I'm going to present on the safety performance measures. Next slide, please. Thank you. For a little bit of background, in 2016, FHWA passed a rule establishing 3 performance measures that state DOTs and NMPOs must track. The first of those is PM1, involves improving safety. The second, maintaining pavement and bridge conditions. And the third is sort of a catch-all for system performance. That includes improving efficiency of the transportation system and freight movement, and reducing congestions and reducing emissions. And the first of those measures is what we will focus on today. So these are the required performance measures under PM1. They are total roadway fatalities, the rate of roadway fatalities, total number of roadway serious injuries, the rate of serious injuries, and the total non-motorized fatalities and serious injuries. So our target setting process began in April of 2023. And something new this year is that MassDOT also developed a 2026 target for each safety measure. And that's seen in the second blue column on the right of the screen. And this was done to have an out-year target that is consistent with the work being done in MassDOT's Highway Safety Office, as well as the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. For reporting purposes, we are only asking to adopt the 2024 target. The 2026 target is just for consistency with the work of these other teams. And it also lets us look at a little further out at what the 2026 number might look like if we projected the 2024 targets out 2 more years. So although the data at the time of target setting back in April was showing that the state is trending towards some of our pre-COVID numbers in terms of safety, the data was far from complete. And so it was not included in the target setting process. And that's why you'll see that the 2019 to 2023 5-year average is excluded from these graphs. Instead, MassDOT developed the 2024 target by projecting the 2023 and 2024 fatalities to be in line with pre-COVID data. And in terms of year-over-year change, this results in a 20% decrease in annual fatalities when comparing the changes between the years 2021 and 2022 to 2023 and 2024. And when this decrease is baked into the 5-year average, we see a more modest reduction going from a 5-year average of 378 fatalities in 2018 to 2022 to 377 fatalities from 2020 to 2024. And so 377 is our 2024 target. And as you can see, if this trend continues to 2026, that 5-year average will further decrease to 362. Moving on to the fatality rate, also pictured in this graph. Oh, you can go back. Sorry. Thank you. This rate represents 5-year average fatalities divided by 5-year average vehicle miles traveled, or VMT. MassDOT projects VMT will exceed pre-pandemic levels in 2023, and the 5-year average fatality rate will decrease to 0.61 fatalities per 100 million vehicle miles traveled. And if this trend continues, we can see that the average will further decrease to 0.54. Next slide, please. Taking a look now at serious injuries. This target setting process began with a trend line projection based on our best available data. Although those numbers suggested, similarly to fatalities, that our serious injury numbers were going down, the data was only a small snapshot of 2023, and so we did not rely on that data set to develop this target. Instead, we projected the 2023 and 2024 serious injury numbers to be in line with pre-COVID data. And in terms of year-over-year changes, this results in a 10% decrease in annual serious injuries, but the 5-year average does remain the same at 2,708 serious injuries. And if this trend continues to 2026, that 5-year average will decrease to 2,603 serious injuries. To calculate the rate of serious injuries, MassDOT divided the 5-year average serious injuries by the 5-year average VMT to arrive at a target of 4.36 serious injuries per 100 million vehicle miles traveled. And if this trend continues, the 2026 rate will further decrease to 3.91.
Question on this slide, and I think it's on the bullet, it refers to total fatalities underneath on the bullet. Should that be total serious industries?
That
Serious
should be total
injuries?
serious injuries.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out.
It's in
This
two spots
slide deck,
there.
no problem. We built it out from regional handout that we shared with all the NPO staff, I think a couple of months ago now. I'm not sure if that was distributed, but I will double check on that document to make sure that we have the language correct. Thank you for pointing that out, Karen. So moving on to our final performance measure, the total combined non-motorized injuries and fatalities. The pandemic had quite a substantial impact here. We see a big drop to start the pandemic in 2020, followed by steady increases through 2022. But based on the state's emphasis to vulnerable road users and employing strategies from the 2023 Strategic Highway Safety Plan and the Vulnerable Road User Safety Assessment, MassDOT does project the 2023 and 2024 numbers to match the low that we saw at the start of the pandemic. And this would bring us to a 5-year average target of 445. And if the trend continues to 2026, the average would further decrease to 435. And before we ask for your endorsement of these targets, I do want to remind folks that these projections relied on the best available data at the time of target setting back in April of 2023. We do expect that when the target setting process begins later this spring for the following calendar year, we will have a much more complete picture of the state's performance in all these categories for 2023. I also want to emphasize that the state targets here are not goals, but realistic targets considering the events of the last 3+ years, and that MassDOT's overarching goal remains 0 injuries and fatalities.
All right, thank you, Chris. Does anyone want to make a motion to endorse the state's targets as detailed here by Chris?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All right, any questions for Chris?
Chris, just recognizing that these are, to your point, realistic goal setting versus aspirational goal setting. With that zero vision, how many years, is there a progression? Has somebody done some sort of mathematical computation of how many years till we get to that zero
That's
vision?
an excellent question. I expect that our highway safety office might be looking that far out. Steve, does our Vision Zero policy set a goal by when we would like to comply with the Vision Zero policy? For example, have we said in policy that by 2040, we'd like to have zero roadway fatalities and injuries?
I don't think in the state highway safety plan that we've said that. I think, I want to say when the Beyond Mobility comes out, I think we might do it. So I don't know off the top of my head, Karen, but I think I think we're starting to move toward a direction, if we haven't already, that we're starting to try to move towards, you know, figuring out what that would look like.
Great,
If
thank
I
you.
could follow up on that too.
Sure.
A lot of the MPOs have been granted SS4A, Safe Streets and Roads for All planning grants, and a lot of that work is just kicking off now. And a part of the requirements by FHWA is for MPOs to establish their own Vision Zero target date. So for example, Berkshire's projecting these numbers out now to look at when it would be realistic to say, okay, by this date, 2040 or 2035, we can realistically anticipate a good chance to have zero injuries and fatalities. I hope that helps. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, Kelly, could you read the roll, please?
Certainly. Steve Wolfle,
Yes.
Brian Fallon,
Yes.
Pat Wojcik,
Yes,
Karen Pulio,
Yes,
all approved.
All right, we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is agenda item 7, federal fiscal year 25 to 29 tip development. And I believe this is a tag team with Jenny and Schuster. I see you're on now, kind of going through readiness days. So I'll turn it over to you two.
Schuster, are you here?
I am sorry, I was on my way back to the home office from the previous MPO meeting with Merrimack Valley. Yeah, so I'm happy to speak to this tip development timeline on behalf of the region. So as we do every year this time of year, the beginning of February, we recently completed our tip readiness days where stakeholders from MassDOT and MPO staff looked at the deliverability of currently programmed tip projects in the Northern Middlesex region and whether or not they are still on track for their proposed readiness date. We also looked at projects and any new projects that could potentially be considered for tip programming in the development tip for 2025 to 2029. This was inclusive not only of regional target projects, but also statewide program projects. Where we are in the tip development schedule is within the next week, we expect to have the statewide program list of projects, including ones in the Northern Middlesex region, available for MPO staff to present to MPO staff at the March meeting. We have some proposed tip development scenarios for regional target programming, I believe, to present today, just with where the readiness outcomes were for currently programmed projects, and anticipate that a determination will be made by MPO board members at the March MPO meeting on what their preferred project list is. That's not only for highway program investments, but also the proposed transit investments from LRTA as well in the Northern Middlesex region. Once those lists are settled on, staff will ready the 2025-2029 draft Northern Middlesex tip for the MPO board to release for 21-day public comment and review. with an anticipated May endorsement. And once the region settles on a tip for the 25 to 29 cycle, MassDOT will incorporate it into the statewide transportation improvement program that gets forwarded along to our federal partners for their review and approval in June. Did we have slides in here of the development scenario, or were you expecting me to? Oh, perfect. There we go.
And I just want to, before you jump into the readiness, I just want to add that staff are working very closely with Schuster, Miranda, and Derek Cravat on making sure that we have everything ready to go for TIP preparation and all the documents that are required. Of course, reviewing the new projects as well. So that'll all be forthcoming, as Derek has just outlined. And this is actually a sort of a digest of the TIP readiness updates. So it's a little bit of a different version, but, and not with scenarios right now, that'll be to come.
Right. So this just demonstrates where I believe column 1, the year is where it's currently programmed, and then is blue your proposed year based on readiness.
Correct.
Okay. This is the first time I'm seeing this version of the chart, so thank you. Yeah, so so column 1 shows where everything is currently programmed, its year, and then the items in blue are where the proposed year is. It doesn't appear that we were proposing anything to move out. I feel like there was one project proposed to move, but I might be mistaken with a statewide priority project.
What, Schuster, so Austin actually prepared this, would you?
Yeah, so these were all the projects that were not recommended to be moved. I suppose we could flip to the next slide. That might be, these were 2 that were programmed and are being moved back a year.
Got it.
Is that what you're looking for? Yeah.
And the reasons we determine a tip readiness days for each of these projects proposed to push out from their current program year had to do with scope and design concerns to address on the Chelmsford traffic signal installation of Route 110 and 495. And then the second project, Chelmsford improvements on Chelmsford Street Route 110, which I think is 609317. And the first one is 607401. Just for reference on each. The 2 of those and the timing of them is dependent on when one advertises first and where design lands on the other. So those are currently programmed in project 607401. The traffic signal installation is currently programmed in 2025, but is being recommended to push out. And what was that?
I think
Sorry.
someone is unmuted, so please mute. Go ahead.
And the second one, Chelmsford improvements on Chelmsford Street Route 110, is currently programmed in 2026, but I believe we were recommending 2027, I think is where the notes were for that project.
It says probably FY 28.
Oh, it is 28. Okay. Thank you, Jenny.
You're welcome.
A lot of projects in the Commonwealth to track. But if you want to go back to the previous slide, I think the good news and takeaway was that most of the priority projects in the region are otherwise on track to deliver in their recommended program year. The 3 projects listed at the bottom, Lowell Connector, Chelmsford Vinyl Square Safety Improvements. Oh, sorry, Vinyl Square Safety Improvements was already programmed for 2028. Oh, so is the connector. Do we have the new projects in a slide?
We did not add the new projects yet.
Okay, so there were a couple proposed new projects that were discussed at readiness days. Jenny, remind me the streets where the diner is in Lowell. No, there's a more eloquent description than that, but
It's by the bridge.
Appleton Street.
Memorial.
There's a bunch of them.
Bridge Street? I think it's Bridge Street. Yeah.
Can you open up?
I'm opening it up right
now.
Sheet? One moment, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get
I have
this.
it on the map.
Hang on, it's opening.
Arthur Steiner programs? Yes.
Oh, wrong sheet.
These are, yeah, I was gonna say.
Excuse
Yeah,
me.
Andover
it
Street.
is-
Go ahead.
it's
Austin,
Bridge at Mass Mills, in between, or Bridge Street. In between Mass Mills Drive and right by French, it's by Arthur
Emory.
Steiner. Yeah,
Yeah, so this project was proposed by MPO staff, and when reviewed during tip readiness days, the note was for staff or City of Lowell to reach out to the district bridge engineer before initiating or programming. The bridge program manager will look at how it falls in the priority list, whether or not it's on the national highway system, how highly it's ranked, and it needs to be evaluated further. Another one in City of Lowell that was proposed is for Andover Street, Route 133 from Nesmith Street to City Line. There's a proposal for a complete streets redesign to remove a center turn lane and add bicycle infrastructure. This project has not yet been initiated and map it, but we know that it's in the region's long-range transportation plan. And at the moment, we're tentatively, cautiously recommending the furthest out year of 2029 for a ready program year, should the MPO be amenable to programming it in the next tip cycle. The last new project for tip programming consideration was 610930 in Westford. This was Route 110 Littleton Road from Powers Road to Minot's Corner. This project is currently PRC approved. It's a municipal design responsibility. The recommendation was for 2029 as the earliest program year. And just a note that the town's working to complete Boston Road project before focusing on this one. And the district will clarify if it's a reconstruction or a resurfacing job as it furthers along in design. There was one other project, but it's currently unfunded. 613109 Chelmsford Lowell deck replacement, Lowell connector and Lowell connector bridge over I-495. It's at an approved design status, but it's unlikely to be deliverable or prioritized on the statewide bridge list for the next 5-year cycle.
So Schuster, Ms. Henderson had a question about the Yankee Trail funding, so in the chat, can you take a quick look?
Yes, one moment. Did I miss the Yankee Doodle funding update? So Yankee Doodle is currently programmed in this fiscal year. Project 608227. I'm assuming you're talking about phase 1 of the bike path. And it's on track for an August 31st advertisement date. I think there was some concern about its deliverability this year, but we haven't made a recommendation yet on removing funding for the project this fiscal year, and are working to address concerns on that project to hopefully make sure it advertises this year. It is still a statewide priority, and we'll know when we have the statewide proposed list whether or not they're preserving any funding for that project in 2025 in the event that it's not going to be deliverable this year. But for now, we're still anticipating that it will be deliverable this fiscal year, and there is funding committed to it. And this is for the Bill Ricca segment.
Thank you, Schuster.
Thank
All right, so in terms of tip development, we've gone over the readiness updates, some of the outstanding projects. We went over the schedule. Is there anything else, either Jenny or Schuster, that we need to go over now?
I just want to note that the Yankee Doodle project actually just started their MEPO review. We just received notification of that, so I don't know if that will influence the thinking around where that project belongs in the process or in which year.
Well, yeah, I think that's to be determined online, but I think that's helpful to know. But yes, All right, but in terms of tip development, have we gone over everything or are we?
We've reviewed all the details for the tip development, and Schuster provided an excellent readiness update.
Justin, just put it in the chat. Is there an update on the work bridge? And
There is an update on Work Bridge. So yeah, as part of readiness days, we, like I said, not only look at everything for the 25-29 development, but also active year projects. Although it's going to be late in the fourth quarter of this year, we do believe Work Bridge is, drumroll, finally on track to actually advertise, fully programmed, and federal fiscal year 2024.
Yeah, I noticed the ad date changed to September, so I was a little concerned.
Yeah, the goal is obviously to try to keep it programmed in this year for simplicity and tip programming sake, but obviously there's some concerns that arise whenever you have a big project. I don't know if District 4 had anything else to update on the status of design for that project. I would defer to them.
Nothing, Derek, but it is on track. We are watching that carefully.
all right,
Thank you.
Stephen, I have a couple questions,
sure, go ahead, Pat.
about some council projects on the prior slide. From this, okay, you have the Chelmsford improvements on Chelmsford Street, Route 110, and I thought you said on these, they're gonna stay in the years that they're shown. But then on the next slide, you imply that this one is gonna move somewhere else.
I didn't
believe
make
these have
these two
different
slides.
project
Go.
numbers.
What was that?
Go ahead, Austin.
Yeah, sorry. So I put together both of these slides, and in doing so, I probably should have included the actual project numbers, but I didn't, just because I didn't want to. There was a lot of information to show. So the project numbers that are on this slide are different from the previous slide. So the titles are similar, but it's actually a different project.
All right, does that help, Pat?
Well, okay, so on this slide, the second one, the improvements on Chelmsford Street, Route 110, how are those different than the previous slide? It seems to say the same thing.
So, so Austin, for the ones on the second slide that just have the two project, what's the project numbers for them?
I mean, I have them right here.
Yeah, please.
Okay, so the first one at the top there, the Chelmsford traffic signal. The project numbers are listed on this page. So the top one is 609317. The bottom one is 307401.
Okay, go back to the slide before.
Fourth one down. Okay, the project number for the fourth one down here, this is also 609317. So it looks like,
Oh, so maybe I should have put that one on the different.
yeah.
So Schuster, is this project staying in what was originally proposed?
No, so this project is currently programmed for 2026. However, at TIP readiness days, a readiness year recommendation was made for 27 or 28, with the note that project design work is happening in tandem with project 607401, the other Chelmsford project listed here. And that the improvements on Chelmsford Street, Route 110 will be deliverable after 607401, most likely.
So what year would that be, Schuster?
That project is recommended for 27. That's not to say both of them couldn't happen in 27. It's just, I think design needs to advance on one first, and that the other needs to follow after. And I defer all design considerations or issues to our district or project manager partners.
Brian, did it with what you're saying, what Schuster just went through? Is that where you guys are at now?
Yeah, basically the two projects are adjacent to each other. So the traffic study, one is going to inform the other project on what the traffic signals are going to be. So they're kind of getting looked at in a traffic study right now, just to find out what the final condition is going to be and the design moving forward. So they kind of are joined together right now, but then when they become projects, they're going to get separated, and one can follow the other. And I think just for construction purposes, it probably would be good to have some kind of delay between the construction aspects of either of these projects, like
Right.
a year.
So, thanks, Brian. And Schuster, I think Jenny, for you and staff is like, before the next meeting, when we start getting more into this needs to be clear, especially with the Chelmsford projects. And I think before we go into the next meeting, I would ask you to reach out to Pat to kind of walk through it with her. So Pat, you have a good understanding going into the next meeting, what it actually looks like. Does that make sense?
Yes, I'd appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Pat, did you have other questions, or was that it? Because I thought you had a couple, but it was just that.
Well, yeah, it was I was confused about
All right.
if that was a different project than what I thought it was.
Okay. All right. Other questions on highway, because I think we want to turn it over to Blake to talk about transit, correct?
Yes.
Yes, okay, so, we received the, federal fiscal year 25 to 29, tip scenario from LRTA. And it's a little bit difficult to read in this tiny little screen. But you should have the full spreadsheet in the documents that we sent. Since the tip is a 5-year document, there is not a lot of differences between the current tip and this one. There are a few items that have some minor adjustments in cost, and there are some increases in cost to reflect inflation on a few items. But the LRTA would like us to highlight two significant changes from the previous tip, which are highlighted in yellow there. And next slide, please. It's a little easier to see. So here are the two most significant changes from the previous tip. And these are things that are programmed for 2029. And the first one is LRTA 011630. And this project is to purchase 2 cutaway buses. These are the smaller fixed route buses that the LRTA uses on some of their routes where there are certain height or weight restrictions. There are many bridges and tight corners and places in some parts of the city. And so LRTA uses these buses for some of those routes. And 2 of them are going to reach their end of useful life around 2029. And so this is to purchase 2 more for $375,000. The second project is T00047. This is a $5 million project for the LRTA to rehab and potentially expand their rooftop solar panel system on the roof of the Hale Street garage facility. The panels were originally installed, funded by, I think it was stimulus money in the Obama administration back in 2009, and they are approaching the end of their life. LRTA has also noted that they would like to consider equipment with this upgrade, so to better accommodate zero emission vehicles. I'm assuming that would mean battery electric buses. I had to do a little bit of research on what this might mean. Essentially, if you install solar panels, it's also possible to install batteries or some kind of equipment along with the solar panels so that you can better utilize your solar facility to charge your buses, or to also allow the batteries to be connected directly into the grid. There's a lot of different things that you could do with more up-to-date technology to improve having zero emission vehicles in the future. So those are the 2 items. Would LRTA like to comment or contribute any more to this?
Yeah, Justin, you want to add anything?
No, I think Blake did an excellent job there. It's just that the last project is focused on the solar panels. We are considering and looking into and doing a lot of research on going electric, and this project will be part of that as well. So Just wanted to point that out. And these are all, a lot of the stuff you see in like the last slide right there. These are ongoing type of things that you'll see in every year of the tip on the transit side. You'll see, we've got operating assistance every year that comes from our federal partners, and you'll see at the top, there is still excuse me, money through the CARES project and ARPA funding from the pandemic assistance, and that's going to end in 2026. So yeah, so this is all still in draft form, subject to change, and we'll definitely have more moving forward as we develop the tip.
All right, does anyone have any questions either for Blake or Justin? I see, before I get to you, Schuster, any board members have questions? All right, Schuster, you got a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify something that's relatively new statewide. If you can go back a slide, several RTAs for reasons of being eligible to receive a discretionary grant that they apply for with FTA are supposed to demonstrate in a tip whether a project is prioritized, but that tip's also only supposed to show things that are real and awarded. So the compromise was, if you look at the 5th line in here for planned discretionary, any projects that use the funding code DOF means discretionary other federal. I just wanted to make clear to board members that this is to communicate that LRTA anticipates applying for a discretionary grant for a particular investment, but it's only planned discretionary until it's actually awarded. This is a relatively new way of listing items in the transit tips, but I just wanted to make sure that was clear in case any board members had questions on that or any other discretionary grants that LRTA applies for. And this is only true for the transit program, not the highway program. Thank you.
All right, anyone else? All right, thank you to everyone on the tip development. Stay tuned, we're obviously we're getting into our busy season for tip, really starting next month, so please be looking at these documents, and as we said, we'll update the highway element to make that clear about Chelmsford. So we'll now move on to agenda item 8, which is updates from District 4. Brian, is this you or someone else doing it? Tim?
That would be me.
All right, Tim, take it easy. I lost you there for a little bit.
All right. First we have 612-631 Chelmsford Bridge Replacement, Gorham Street over 495. And the replacement of Westford Street over 495. That is actually advertised. And the numbers were adjusted based on what came in from the advertisement by about $1 million, less than $1 million. 609-510 Drake It, improvements at George Englesby Elementary School, a safe routes to school project. Those cost numbers have been adjusted up about $1.5 million. 604-694 Lowell Connector reconstruction from Thorndike to Gorham Street. That total federal participating cost has increased about $500,000. 607-401 Chelmsford traffic signal installation at Route 110 and Route 495, 2 locations. Those costs have increased approximately $6.5 million. 607-887. Well, we've had, because of some basically bookkeeping, we've zeroed out the total contract cost in our records, but obviously that's not a real thing. 609-317, the project costs there have changed with decreases of up to $3 million on that. 605-966 Lowell reconstruction related work on VFW Highway. We got the 100% design in on that. That's being reviewed, and that's it.
All right, any questions for Tim? All right, thank you, Tim. All right, the next item agenda is agenda item 9, federal certification review. Is anyone from Federal Highway or Federal Transit on? I just looked, I don't think they are they?
I don't think so.
All right, so Schuster, I assume we'll take this up next meeting, I would guess.
Yeah, I think we just had this as a placeholder since the last MPO board meeting. There was an in-person federal certification review at Northern Middlesex offices to look over all federal planning activities as performed by MPO staff. It was very comprehensive and cordial, if stressful, as these cert reviews tend to be. Jenny or Kelly, I wasn't sure if there was anything else you wanted to add about the experience.
No, nothing else to add. It was a comprehensive review and conversation, and I think there will be a lot of changes forthcoming as a result of it, and we'll look forward to receiving a draft report, which is anticipated later this spring, and with more to report back to the MPO about at a future meeting.
Okay, so stay tuned, everyone. Let's move on to the next agenda item, which is other business. Any other business anyone has?
I have other business.
Sure, go ahead.
On March 20th, NMMPO will be hosting the MABPAD meeting. That's the Massachusetts Bike and Pedestrian Advisory Board, led by Pete Sutton. It's up on our calendar, and I just wanted to let people know that we will be hosting the advisory board meeting that month. So on March 20th at 1 p.m.
All right. Any other business?
I just want to note that last night we hosted a Greater Lowell Vision Zero forum, and the materials that were shared last night will be posted on our website and also distributed to MPO members, which includes really a great amount of data and information about essentially fatalities, serious injuries, and the network that seems to be developing, as well as other overlays that were shared by both the region, and then also looking at sort of corridors to begin to get a sense of where there might be some opportunities to look at specific intersections and other details, which will of course be forthcoming. This is all headed up by Jessica Boulanger, and we just appreciate her leading the project. We have WSP as the consultant performing the technical work, and look forward to sharing more with you in the future.
All right. Anything else? Yep, yes, you're right. You don't even know how right you are about limited availability. We're already over almost 1,100 people, and we haven't even put a program or anything out or told anyone who the speaker. So if people are interested in the innovation conference, please register, because I could be closing this in the next 2 weeks at 1,300. So please stay tuned, and if you are interested, you should hop on the registration as soon as possible and get that done. All right, with that, can I get a motion second to adjourn, please?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, thank you, everybody. Stay safe. We will see you next month. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.